For 6 months she had been ghost woman to the Navajo tribe that saved her from the desert's hunger. Katherine Young had survived the great storm that killed her entire family, but survival had cost her everything she thought she was. Now, as cavalry soldiers approached the village looking for missing settlers, she faced an impossible choice: return to a world that no longer wanted her, or defend the people who had given her a new life. New Mexico Territory, spring of 1885. The sound of hoofbeats echoing off canyon walls sent a chill through the Navajo village hidden in the red rock formations. Katherine Young, known to the tribe as Ch'ééh Diyin, Ghost Woman, stood at the edge of the settlement, watching dust clouds rise from the approaching riders. 6 months ago, she would have run toward those soldiers, crying with relief at her rescue. Now, she felt only dread. The great storm had taken everything: her parents, her younger brother Timothy, their entire wagon train, swallowed by a wall of sand and wind that had turned day into night for 3 terrifying days. Katherine had survived by crawling into a shallow cave, using her family's scattered belongings to block the entrance and waiting for death that never came. When Ch'ééh Diyin and his hunting party found her on the 4th day, she was more ghost than woman, delirious, sunburned, speaking words they couldn't understand. But they had carried her home anyway, and his wife, Sani, had nursed her back to life with patience and herbs that tasted of earth and rain. The first weeks had been a blur of fever and grief. Katherine had begged them to take her to the nearest fort, to find white people who would know what to do with her. But Sani had shaken her head, speaking in Navajo words Katherine was only beginning to understand. "You came to us in the storm. The storm brought you for a reason." As her body healed, Katherine began to learn. First the language, simple words for water, food, sleep. Then customs, how to grind corn, how to weave, how to read the sky for weather. The children laughed at her clumsy attempts, but not cruelly. They were teaching her to be human again. Slowly, Katherine discovered that the person she had been, the sheltered daughter of missionaries heading to California, had died in that cave. Ghost Woman was someone else entirely, someone who could track animals by their scent, who knew which plants healed and which ones killed, who could predict rain by the way the wind moved through the canyon. When she looked in the still pools of water, she barely recognized herself. Her blonde hair had darkened from sun and plant dyes. Her pale skin was now bronze from months under the desert sun. Her hands, once soft from a life of Bible readings and embroidery, were calloused from work and strong from survival. But it was her eyes that had changed most. The frightened, helpless look was gone, replaced by something harder, more aware. She had learned to see the world as the Navajo saw it, not as something to be conquered, but as something to be understood and respected. Now, as the cavalry drew closer, Katherine felt that old world calling her back. Ch'ééh Diyin. Ch'ééh Diyin appeared beside her, his weathered face serious. "They come for you." Katherine nodded. They had all known this day would come. Word traveled fast in the desert, and a missing white woman would not be forgotten by the army. "I have to go with them," she said in Navajo, her words careful but clear. "Do you want to go?" The question hung in the air like heat shimmer. 6 months ago the answer would have been obvious. Now Katherine wasn't sure she knew how to live in a world of corsets and drawing rooms and sitting quietly while men made decisions about her life. "I don't know," she admitted. Sani emerged from her hogan, carrying a bundle wrapped in deerskin. "Then you take both worlds with you," she said, pressing the bundle into Katherine's hands. "You remember who you became here, even if you must pretend to be who you were." The soldiers rode into the village with the confidence of men who expected no resistance. Their leader, a captain with sun-faded blue eyes, dismounted and approached Ch'ééh Diyin. "We're looking for a white woman, taken by your people during the storm last October. Katherine Young, age 19, blonde hair, traveling with the Morrison wagon train." Ch'ééh Diyin gestured toward Katherine without emotion. "Ghost woman. She came with the storm." The captain turned, and Katherine watched his expression change from professional interest to shock. She knew what he saw, a woman who looked white but moved like an Indian, who wore traditional dress but had European features, who stood with the quiet confidence of someone who belonged exactly where she was. "Miss Young." His voice was uncertain. "Captain," Katherine replied in English, the words feeling strange after months of speaking Navajo. "My God, we thought you were dead. Your uncle in Santa Fe has been searching. Everyone assumed the whole train was lost." Uncle Harold. Katherine had forgotten about her father's brother, the stern banker who had never approved of his brother's missionary work. He would be her guardian now, she realized. He would expect her to slip back into the role of dutiful niece, to pretend the last 6 months had never happened. "I'm alive," she said simply. "We'll escort you to Fort Wingate immediately. You'll need medical attention, proper clothes." The captain's eyes swept over her traditional dress with disapproval. "You've been through a terrible ordeal." "Have I?" Katherine asked quietly. The captain looked confused. "Miss Young, these people, they've held you captive for months. It's natural that you might feel some confusion, some misplaced loyalty. It's a known effect of prolonged captivity." Katherine felt anger flare in her chest. "Captive? They saved my life. Of course, they did their duty as Christians should, but now you need to return to your own people." Around them, the village had grown quiet. Children peered out from behind their mothers' skirts. The men stood with careful neutrality, ready for trouble but not seeking it. Katherine looked at Asdasani, who nodded slightly. A message passed between them, woman to woman, that needed no words. "Very well, Captain," Katherine said. "I'll come with you." As she gathered her few possessions, Katherine made her decision. She would return to the white world, but she would not forget what she had learned. She would be the bridge between two peoples who needed to understand each other. That night, as they camped halfway to Fort Wingate, Katherine lay under stars that looked the same from any world. The captain sat by the fire, writing his report of the successful rescue mission. He would never understand that the woman he was returning was not the same one who had been lost. Katherine Young had died in that storm. Ghost Woman had lived through it. And the person traveling to Santa Fe was something new, someone who carried both worlds inside her and would spend the rest of her life teaching them to see each other clearly. In the bundle Asdasani had given her, Katherine found traditional medicines, a small loom, and a piece of turquoise carved in the shape of a thunderbird. Wrapped around it was a note in careful English, "For when you need to remember who you really are." Katherine smiled, closed her eyes, and dreamed of red canyons and the sound of rain on desert stone. Katherine Young's journey reminds us that survival sometimes means becoming someone entirely new. The desert storm didn't just change her location. It transformed her soul, showing us that home isn't always where we come from, but where we learn to truly live. If this story of transformation and finding belonging in unexpected places moved you, subscribe to the Frontline Voice for more tales of survival and self-discovery. Hit that like button if you believe we can carry multiple worlds within us. Tell us in the comments. Would you choose the world that saved you or the world you came from? Share this story with someone who understands that sometimes we find ourselves by losing everything we thought we were. Thanks for journeying with us through the desert, where storms destroy and create in equal measure. Until next time, remember that survival is just the beginning. Transformation is where the real story starts.